Hey everyone, this is Karma with Onward Studios. In this video, we're going to look at filters inside Photoshop. Filters is a quick way to turn your image into more like a drawing or a painting or a sketch, and many other things as well. There's just a ton of filters. Not only can you use a filter, but then you can use filters on top of filters to get some really neat effects. I'm going to show you how to start that process in this video. Over in my layers panel, I have the background layers selected. I'm going to do a Control J to make a copy of that background. And I'm going to use what we call smart filters. You don't have to use smart filters, but the beauty of smart filters is you can go back and edit the filters after the fact. You can add filters without them being smart, if you will, by simply going up to Filter and just starting to add various filters here. If I turn this to a Gaussian blur or apply the Gaussian blur filter to this and click OK, it's applied it, but now I can't get back to Gaussian blur to do anything with that. That's why I recommend using smart filters. I'm going to Control Z that Gaussian blur out of there. To use smart filters, I need to turn this layer into a smart object. Once it's a smart object, if I apply any filters, it's going to consider that a smart filter. So anytime you apply a filter to a smart object, it'll be a smart filter. All right, so I'm going to right click on this layer and choose the option to convert to smart object. And that's indicated by this little icon at the bottom right of this thumbnail. That's a smart object icon. Now I'm going to add some filters to this image by going up to the filter option of the main menu. And the filters are available through here. They're also available in the filter gallery, which is the way I recommend applying filters. And that opens up this big dialog box. We have the image over here. It's automatically or by default shows at 100%. I'm going to zoom out a bit so you can see more of the image, something like that. And then in this section are all the different filters we can apply, and then on the right side are the parameters for the selected filter. When we first come in here, it's going to automatically apply the last used filter. So I had used this filter in a previous image, so it's still there and it applies it to this image. I can't remove this because I always need a filter there when I'm inside this filter dialog box, but I can replace it with something else simply by selecting a different filter. Notice here it changed from what it was to the current selected filter, etc. Okay, and as I click on these different filters, right now we're using we're filters inside the brush strokes folder. Each of these filters has their own parameters here on the right hand side, and I can change those and set those as I desire. Let's go with one of these filters where you can see an obvious change. We'll go with accented edges. Now if I wanted that filter just like that and didn't want to do any other changes, I simply click OK. When I glance back out here in my layers panel, I notice it has applied a smart filter. And I can double click on that filter to get back to the settings for the filter that we just applied. Let's add another filter on top of that. To add another filter, I simply go down to any of these other filters. These filters are organized by folders. Let's go inside the sketch folder and let's try charcoal. Oops, we wanted to add that filter versus replacing it. Notice I replaced it right here. I'm going to do a Control Z. To add a filter, I need to click on this little icon at the bottom to add a new effect layer. What that does, it immediately adds the same filter twice. So now I have two accented edges. And notice if you add the same filter twice, it just increases the results of that filter even more. Now I want to change this one that we just added to a different filter, so I have the top one highlighted. Now if I click on any filter over here where the filters are, it's going to change that top one to that. So there's the charcoal, and you can just play with these. You get all kinds of weird, neat, funky effects. Now these look different because it's applying the filter on top of another filter. If I wanted to see graphic pen just by itself, I could click on the bottom filter and delete that. And notice there's a slight change there when I deleted the bottom one. I'm going to add a filter on top of graphic pen. And you can continue just playing with these, adding filters, deleting filters, etc., setting the different parameters here. And once you're done with that, click OK. And again, since we have smart filters, if I double click on that again, I get back to the same editing options that we saw before. All right, so that's an introduction into using filters, and particularly how to use smart filters, so you can go back and edit those filters if and when needed.